Hi everybody. In today's episode, I'm going to take all of these Kenner X-Wing fighter parts and I'm going to make an X-Wing out of it. I had an X-Wing as a child and I've never really owned one complete or not broken, and I've accumulated all of these parts and pieces over the years with the intent of making one complete and looking good in the collection. And I'm doing a collection room video here soon. I haven't done one yet, and I hope that you guys are excited to see that. But in order to do that, I need to get this into the collection because I do have a spot in my toy room that is just toys from my childhood. Also want to document everything that I have so that when I go to toy shows, I know what I have so that I don't start buying doubles. So it's not only for your pleasure, but it's also for my records. But we have to get one of these in the collection. Now, most of these are broken. We've got a X-Wing here that is quite white. It's really great condition, but just like usual, the wings are broken. I think I want to use this and restore it, but I also have to fix the wings. Now, I do have wings here that are not broken, but they're really, really yellow. I should be able to make two X-Wings out of everything that I have here. I've got another one here, broken wings, obviously. If we try to open that up, it doesn't really do anything, so these are broken. These wings here seem to be fine. So I do have a bunch of R2s here. That one is in really great condition. It's really white, so I'll probably stick with that. But I have all kinds of parts. We have to test the electronics. This one here, if you look at the electronics in that, it's really, really rusted. And this was my first one that I started trying, and then I started to accumulate the rest of these. I have lots of landing gear. I think 3 of these have good landing gear. I have lots of the lasers. Some of these, 2 of these I think are 3D printed, and the rest of them are original. These 2 are original on this white one. The only thing that I don't have that's original is the cockpit, and I have a cockpit here that I 3D printed a while ago. I want to take this apart, see if we can fix the wings. Then we'll take everything apart and clean them and try to get the electronics working. Put some new stickers on this one especially because it doesn't have any stickers. And we'll see if we can get at least one working. If not, 2. 2 is my goal out of everything that we have here. I think we can get 2. So first I want to take these apart. We're just going to do this one on camera. There is a screw right here. Now these are the North American versions. They have the electronics in them. And they are a little different. So we take that screw out there and then we turn it. So this is where I think this is where the battery goes in here. So we can open that up. I do remember getting frustrated with this as a kid. I could never get this off to get the batteries in there. It was really hard to get out. Of course, you mar all this up with a screwdriver and stuff, but you can see up in there, there's the contacts for the batteries. Here's another screw here for the nose, Phillips. So that comes off like that. Now notice that there are 2 different size screws. That's for the nose and this is for the top, so we want to keep those separate. There's 2 screws right here, so we got to pull those out. Those are the same as the one on the top, I believe. Keep those separate. Alright, this should pull off now. There we go. Contact on that is not bad. They could be fixed and cleaned. There we go. Now the electronics are in the bottom, so we want to open it up from from the top up. We're going to test the electronics in all of these and see which one works. We might need to use the electronics from one that works the best, the cleanest. So we want to do that. Get 4 screws here. Now this should all come apart now, you think? There we go. The electronics in that one looks really clean. I like that. Push these in. Get that out like that. There we go. So you can see that one wing is broken. And this one is pretty good. I think that once this is cleaned up, it might be all right. So we've got a nice wing there. We've got these wings here that I had earlier. They're all yellowed. There we go. That comes out like that. That's how you get that out. And so that's how you take it apart. I'm going to spend some time taking the rest of these apart here. And I'm going to get them in soap and water and clean them, and then we'll come back and I'll show you all the parts and we'll start repairing. Okay, I have everything here all nice and clean. I haven't taken the old stickers off yet, but I will do that soon. The next thing we have to do is try to find out if these motors are working, and if they don't, we'll repair them. The motor in this one is really rusted. I'm not even going to try to get it to work, but I did take out all the original electronics, and maybe I can use those someday, or somebody else can use them. The motor could be taken out, but this cover is fused to the top, and I wanted to use the bottom of this because it was whiter than some of the other ones, but the side of it is warped, so I'm not going to use that, and I'm just going to set it off to the side. This is pretty much garbage. I also pulled the cog out too. I guess there's a possibility that these could be broken, so I pulled it out in case I can use it for a replacement someday. These ones all here are fine. Now during my cleaning process, this X-Wing top had some really nice stickers on there, so I didn't submerge it in the water and I was able to save those stickers. So I'm definitely going to be using this one. This is the whiter top. This is the one that I'll be using for my collection. And these two here, they're not in bad condition, but they're really yellowed. I didn't bother taking the stickers off them, and I'm not going to. They'll just go into a parts bin. Now when it comes to the wings, these are the whitest wings and they're not broken. And this one here is the other white one. It has to be repaired. I'm going to be using this for my good X-Wing. I was hoping to use 2 wings that were not broken, but these ones just the white color tone, they match, and I want to stick with that. These wings here are not broken. I got these wings here that are not broken. I got 3 pairs of wings that are not broken, but they're just so yellowed on one side or the other side. I'm not going to spend time whitening them, but I'm definitely going to be able to make a second X-Wing for sure with all of these parts. So let's just check out and see if any of these motors work. I would love to get at least 2 motors working. So let's get started with that. Let's get some batteries to test out these motors and see if we can get them running. Typically you can get them running just by turning them manually, and eventually they'll loosen up and start working. I got some batteries here. So let's try this out. Got positive and negative here. I'm just going to use this screwdriver and put it over the tops of the batteries. You can tell if the batteries are working and the electronics is working if the LED lights up. And then if the motor doesn't work, then we know we have to try to get it to free up. So the motor is not working, so I'm going to free this up by moving the cog. That obviously didn't work, so let's get some 3-in-1 oil, and we'll put it right here in the front and the back. There is a metal rod that goes through there that the cog is on, so we want to get it into that area so that it runs down through the shaft of the motor. And we'll keep trying to manually turn it a whole bunch of times, and then hopefully when we put the batteries in again it will free it up. Let's try it out. Another thing you can do is the two wires that goes from the battery to the LED and then back to the motor, they just plug into the motor, so you can check those connections just to make sure that they're pushed into the motor hard enough, or make sure that at least they're connected to the wire, but seems like it's fine. Alright, that motor didn't turn over. We'll set that aside, and hopefully that oil will soak into that shaft, and maybe later on we can try it out. Alright, after about 15 minutes this motor doesn't seem to be able to run, so let's work on the other two here. And after about 3 or 4 minutes of doing that, we've got the motor running. That is awesome. Sounds really good, and it's getting stronger and stronger. Let's see if we can get the third motor running at least. And I guess this one's going to work right off the bat. I guess allowing the oil to soak into that just helped it right away. So that's awesome. Unfortunately, this isn't the part that I want to use. I wanted to use this one here. This motor is just not going to work. I do have to take all these Kenner stickers off. A lot of times these stickers are really hard to get off, especially when they were baked in the sun. The glue just ends up being part of the plastic. So I usually have to use a lot of Zippo lighter fluid, scrape it off. So let's get started on that. When I get back, we're going to definitely get those wings fixed. So after giving that oil a few days to seep into that motor that I couldn't get started, I managed to get all three started. I would just come down into the video room and try it and manually turn the motor, and now it's working. So we got all three working. You can see this one here. I just got some tin foil. It makes it a lot easier to make that connection. So we have that one. Now this is the one that I actually want to use here for my collection. That one's working really strong. And this is the one that I couldn't get working that I wanted to use for my second one to complete. And I managed to get that one working. And I think that probably sounds the best out of all of them, although the one I just did before this was quite strong too. So that's awesome. I'm going to be using these two bottoms. I'm glad I didn't give up, because this one here is a little too yellow. Alright, I'm going to clear this table off with just the parts I'm going to use, and we'll repair the wings and make the canopies. So these wings obviously need to be fixed, but this one here, which I plan on using, it does have a pretty good crack right here. And even though it's not broken all the way through, I want to reinforce that so it doesn't break off completely. And so we're just going to use some plastic weld. I have this kind of plastic weld, and I have this kind of plastic weld. And from what I can tell, the white plastic weld is the one I always use. I've had this before and it's never worked in any plastic that I've ever used it on, But I'm going to try it on this because I did see somebody years ago do a restoration and he used that plastic weld, which is the reason why I bought it, just to see if it works on Star Wars Kenner plastic. If it doesn't, then we know that you don't want to buy this. But if it does, it'd be great to be able to use this because I haven't really used it on any repairs that worked yet. So I have a lot of different thicknesses of styrene sheet, and I have this here. It's quite thin and you can bend it really easily. But I think if we put a long piece about this size on the top and the bottom, I think it'll work. When they're closed, there seems to be enough space that this will fit underneath it. I don't want to use too thick of plastic because I don't want to make the wings not fit together when it's closed. So let's try this and see how it works. I'm going to let that dry for a few minutes and then I'm going to test it to make sure that it's on there strong. That seems to be on there pretty strong. I tried pulling it apart and it doesn't seem to be coming apart from the plastic. So I think that plastic weld is working really good on that. Alright, I got my pairs of wings all done, and a few things I learned while I was doing this is putting a big piece like that on is actually a good way of doing it because you can just cut out that hole. Also, there is a little T shape on the wing that's raised. The styrene won't weld down if you just weld it over top of that. This one I just cut around it, and that seemed to have worked just fine. We've got these two here that fits together like that. And we have the whitest wings that I'm going to use for the one that I'm putting in my collection. That's the repaired one. This one was in pretty good condition. There's a lot of warping on that one, so we'll fix the warping and before we put all these together. And now you can see here that I now have 3 pairs of wings. That's going to be on the best one, and then we've got 2 more X-wings that we can make. Let's get started with the canopies. I'm in my shop here and I'm looking for some acrylic, and I found some that I had right here. This is about probably a millimeter thick, and I think that's going to do the job. I think those are both the same thickness as there, so let's just cut one up and then we can start cutting it into small canopy pieces. So I've got my acrylic cut, and I already cut a piece off and started making one using the bandsaw and my belt sander. But in case somebody's watching this and does not have those tools, I'm going to show you how you can do it by hand. And you can do it without having an example, but I do have an example of a 1995 X-Wing here. If I can get this out, this is what it looks like. And the acrylic that they use here, the plastic, is a little bit thinner than the one that I have, but not much thinner. It's almost the exact same thing, maybe a 0.2 millimeters thinner. But this is what I can use as a template if I wanted to. Just take a piece of paper and trace it. I'm sure somebody out there has a pattern to cut these pieces out, and you can do that too. I'm just going to use this, but just go on the internet. You'll probably be able to find a pattern. So the next thing I need to do is make these little posts. I found this clear plastic. I don't know where it came from. It's got a little end on it, almost like a ball end. Pretty sure this was something I got at a restaurant. Maybe it was in a cocktail. I don't know, but for some reason I kept it. And I'm glad I did, because it's actually the exact same circumference as these little posts. So I'm going to cut this to size, glue those on there, and then we'll be able to test it on our X-Wings. While those are drying, I'm going to get these X-Wings up here and get them all together. Here's the 3 X-Wings that I'm going to put together. I also have the 2 canopies made and the 3 pairs of wings ready to go, and they'll be working great. I'm going to put one together off camera as a practice, and then I'll show a time lapse, and we'll do one in real time so that you can see how to do it yourself. Also, for these springs here, I did put them in vinegar to try to get rid of some of the rust, and you can see here the results. I just put these springs in water, and you can see when I wiped the rust off how much came off from the vinegar, and you can see how nice and clean all of those springs really look. So here's the first one I put together, and it's pretty awesome. I really actually like the yellow to it. I bet you it would look really good with some battle damage. It actually has some battle damage look to it. But the important thing is that the wings do work. We demonstrate that by pushing this, and it stays. And we know the motor works because we tested it. And this button is different than the other two X-wings. This button works a little differently. You push it back, and it's got a pretty good snap to it when it comes back. And this is the one that has the spring that goes this way. So that's awesome. I love that actually. But let's get the other two together. Just separating the best screws that I can find, the cleanest, and you can see how clean those are. I pretty much got as many as I need. You need 7 of these small screws and then 1 of these big screws. Now some of these only had 2 screws in here, and some of them had 4 screws in there. I'm going to put 4 in mine. And the first one I put together, this one here, I only used 2 screws. And you can tell that it only had 2 screws because there was no threads. You can see how one hole is much bigger than the other 2. And they're usually on a diagonal. This one had 4 screws in it because the holes are all the same size. But I'm going to put 4 in this one just to keep it secure. The first thing we want to do, we want to get this. We want to get the spring, put it here. The R2 head goes there. That's where the button is, so we want to make sure that the button is at the place where there's a little bit of damage. Then we can put this on. It doesn't matter which way you put it, this way or this way, as long as it goes into the square connection. And then we want to get a screw and screw the head in. And you can test it, make sure it goes up and down, and it does. Next we're going to take the spring and put it into the button. Just fits in there like that. And we're going to put that just right here. Like that. That's what helps it keep it snug. But it doesn't work right now because we have to wait until we get the top of this on. So we're just going to put it in like that. And we can set that off to the side. And the next thing we're going to do is get our wings. These are the landing gear, so they're going to go in the bottom. And then we have our thrusters, which go in the back. And then we're also going to take this. This is where the batteries go, which go in the back where the thrusters are. And we're going to take these 2 blue tabs and fit them into here. Put it into those sections. And now before we push that all in together, we want to take this rod and connect the 2 X-wings. And you can see where that rod fits into here and here. So we're just going to push this together. This is probably the hardest part of the whole build, is getting that blue thing to fit in there. There we go. You can see that that rod fell out of that housing, so let's get our screwdriver and fit it back in there. And there we go. There is our wing assembly. And now we can put this onto the bottom of the X-wing here. Now we've got these 4 posts here that fit into these 4 post housings here. So you got to make sure that those all fit in together. Let's get some screws in here. These are all the good ones here. So I'm going to put at least one here. See if that will screw in, and it does. This one does have 4 threaded holes. So those 2 there, and then there's 2 more where the batteries go in here. To get the landing gear in there, it should go in there like this. You always want the bent part to be in the front. So you just put that in there like that. And then there's 2 little pieces here that just wedge into the white part of the frame. So that just pushes, you just push it, kind of force it in there. That just keeps it from falling back in when it's sitting on the landing gears. And then we put the nose on. That holds the LED in place and sticks out of the hole there. And then we just put it all together with the large screw. That fits it all. Keeps the front at least together. Nice and snug. Don't turn it too tight. You don't want to break the plastic and crack it. And then the next part that holds it to the back together is this piece. 2 holes right here, and then there's 2 little tabs here that fit on the bottom. So you want to get those in there first, and then just push it on like that. Make sure those tabs are still in there. They are. And then you can push the battery cover down if you're not going to put batteries in it. I'm going to put batteries in it, so I'll wait. Try to get the nicest screws. So these are the screws that you're going to see. So the shiniest screws will go into there. And we have one more screw that's going to go in the top right here. And we'll put a nice shiny screw right in there. And there we go. I'm going to test the motor just to make sure that it's still working, and then we'll move on to putting the stickers on. Okay, let's test everything, make sure it works. The contacts on all the electronics on this one in particular is really, really clean. I didn't have to clean anything when it came to that. We did some cleaning obviously on the springs. push that down, and then we'll test it. And we've got a working motor. That's amazing. Let's test the wings. Wings work, and then we push this back and they go back down. That works really nice. I also have some stickers. Shout out to Toy Polloy. I got these stickers from him, and I printed these probably about 2 or 3 years ago when I first decided to do this, and then never got around to it. Also, these stickers are really bringing these X-Wings to life. They're starting to look really nice. And these stickers, like I said, is from Toy Polloy. So thanks, Toy Polloy, for helping me get these X-Wings looking great. And here we go. I'm super satisfied getting the motor in this X-Wing working. It took a lot of work. Here's my really, really nice white one. And that one's going to go in the collection. And then here's the 1995 version of the X-Wing with Luke Skywalker jacked up. I like this one because it's got the red 5 markings on it instead of the original one, the red 3s. Shit, I forgot the landing gear. This toy is super nostalgic. We've got the LED light there and the sounds. I remember having this as a young child. I think I got the first version of this because it was white and had no battle damage stickers. I believe that came out in '78, which means I would have been 5 years old. But when I had this in my toy collection as a child, it was missing everything and the wings were broken. So the only thing that I could do with it was hit the button, get the sound, the light would turn on, and I don't really recall playing with it and having a good time, but I must have because it was completely trashed. But this was a really labor-intensive video, but I'm really happy to get this into the collection now. I'm going to start my toy room videos really soon, and this is going to be on the main part of my childhood collection area. So I've got the really nice white one. We've made some canopies. We've got another one here that's almost complete. It's got a couple 3D printed lasers. And this one also works. The wings open up and everything too. So it's really cool. The first canopy that I made was not that great. It was too wide and I got messy with the glue and stuff. So maybe someday I'll make another one for that, but I plan on actually selling that to somebody really cheap. We've got there's actually the original stickers on the side, which are really cool, and then the rest are all reprints. We've got the 95 version here, which is awesome. This is going to be my fleet here, and then we've got this one here that I just put together. It's really yellowed, and everything on it works. The electronics work and everything too, but it's missing the canopy. I didn't make another canopy for it. The light works. It's missing the lasers, and of course it needs new stickers. But that's for somebody else to do for their own project. It would be a great custom X-Wing if you want to make a custom. But I find that the 95 one is amazing. It's got the battle damage kind of stickers on it. It's kind of grayish. It's got a lot of paint work on it. I just think that this is actually the best X-Wing in this style that has ever come out, other than the fact that it doesn't have an LED, which kind of sucks. Now it does have a button here on the bottom which makes sounds, I believe, but I put batteries in this and it does not work. But that's fine. This came from a friend's childhood's collection, so it'll always stay in my collection room. So thanks for watching this episode. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. See you later.